The NBA has changed over time. While many celebrate today's stars, some legends don't hesitate to point out the differences between eras. John Stockton, considered one of the greatest point guards in league history, launched harsh criticism at LeBron James and Stephen Curry. According to him, the intensity and competitive mentality of his era cannot be compared to today. Stockton held nothing back. It wasn't about friendship, it was about ferocity. For him, basketball wasn't a place to praise the opponent, but a true war on the court. He recalled that in his time, when teammates switched to another team the following season, you didn't even look them in the eye. You just thought, all right, let's go. The bond wasn't friendship, it was pure competition. This message stands in strong contrast to the dynamic we see today in the NBA. LeBron James and Stephen Curry, who have faced each other in 4 finals, maintain a mutual respect and admiration that for Stockton reflects a shift in the league's competitive essence. LeBron, known for his greatness both on and off the court, has praised Curry on several occasions. In 2021, he said, "We are witnessing what Stephen Curry has done in his career. He's a once-in-a-lifetime player." In 2022, he added, "Curry is lethal. The moment he steps out of his car, you'd better start guarding him." And more recently, in December 2024, he said, "I feel grateful to face one of the greatest who has ever played this game. It's always a blessing." Curry, on the other hand, hasn't held back either. In July 2023, the Warriors star said, "He's a great guy, a great friend, and a great competitor." He also highlighted the uniqueness of their rivalry. "It will be very hard to find 2 teams facing each other in 4 straight finals again. That run will go down in history as 4 incredible years." Stockton, however, doesn't see such declarations as fitting for true competition. The Utah Jazz legend insists that today's NBA has softened, and that friendship and admiration between rivals overshadow the ferocity that once defined players in his era. He even criticized load management, saying, "There are guys who can take 20 days off. I couldn't. Can you imagine your dad coming home saying he'll take weeks off from work? Who's going to feed us then?" For Stockton, discipline and sacrifice were the foundation of success, and he questions whether the new generation still carries those values. His criticism isn't just aimed at LeBron and Curry, but at the entire modern NBA, which he believes has become more of a show than a fierce battle. His words open up an inevitable debate. Has the league changed for the better, with more respect and professionalism? Or has it lost the intensity and ferocity that once defined greatness? In conclusion, John Stockton didn't just criticize LeBron James and Stephen Curry. He sent a message to the entire NBA today. True basketball is played with hunger, intensity, and without distractions. What do you think about Stockton's words? Do you believe LeBron and Curry are still as fierce as the players from the past, or has the NBA become too friendly? Hit the like button if these comments surprised you. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of the hottest NBA debates and stories. In other news, in NBA history, few names command the unanimous respect of players, coaches, and fans. Steve Nash, one of the most talented and elegant point guards the league has ever seen, had no doubts when asked who he considered the greatest basketball player of all time. And perhaps most surprising, he admitted that he felt fear every time he had to face him. Steve Nash, a 2-time NBA MVP and Hall of Famer, enjoyed a brilliant career. Born in South Africa and raised in Canada, he developed a playing style based on intelligence, passing precision, and exceptional court vision. His best years came with the Dallas Mavericks and Phoenix Suns, where he revolutionized offensive basketball with his speed and creativity. Towards the end of his career, he also wore the Los Angeles Lakers jersey, where injuries began to take their toll. He eventually retired in 2015, leaving behind a legacy difficult to match. Over nearly 2 decades in the NBA, Nash had the privilege and challenge of competing against some of the greatest legends: Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Tim Duncan, among others. However, when asked in a 2020 interview for the popular show Old Smoke who the best player he had ever seen was, Nash did not hesitate for a second. "MJ is my guy, always, without a doubt. For me, he's the greatest player in history." For Nash, Michael Jordan was not just a player, but an inspiration since childhood. He grew up admiring his plays, his charisma, and above all, his competitive mentality. And as if taken from a movie script, the boy who dreamed of playing in the NBA eventually found himself face to face with his idol. Reflecting on those moments, Nash confessed, "He was my childhood hero. I had the chance to play against him. He had incredible charisma, on top of all his gifts and skills. Mentally, you already know how great he is." What stood out the most was his honesty when speaking about what he felt on the court against Jordan. He was different from any other player I've ever faced. I felt a lot of fear playing against him. I had never seen the league fear and revere a player that much. That statement carries weight, coming from someone who faced Kobe Bryant at his peak and a young, title-hungry LeBron James. For Nash, Jordan belonged to another category. Not only because of his offensive and defensive talent, but also because of the way he psychologically dominated both opponents and teammates. The mental impact he had on the league was something unique. Nash's view also reflects a common sentiment among players who experienced the Michael Jordan era. Many of them don't just recognize him as the greatest for his 6 championships, 5 MVP awards, or 10 scoring titles, but for the intensity and respect he demanded every time he stepped on the court. He wasn't just a basketball player. He was an unstoppable force. After retiring as a player, Steve Nash remained connected to the NBA as a coach. Between 2020 and 2022, he led the Brooklyn Nets in a tumultuous tenure marked by managing a star-studded roster that included Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden. Although his coaching stint ended earlier than expected, his vision of the game and his legacy as one of the greatest point guards of all time remain intact. Nash's statement about Michael Jordan ultimately serves as a reminder that greatness is not only measured in statistics, but in the emotional impact a player can have on an entire league. Very few have made even their rivals admit they felt fear. Jordan did, and continues to do so decades after his retirement. In a world where the debate over the greatest player of all time still divides opinions between those who back Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, or even other past legends, Steve Nash's words add yet another testimony that reinforces the myth of the Chicago Bulls number 23. And coming from a 2-time MVP who was used to dominating on the court, his opinion carries special weight. If you're passionate about NBA history and want to hear more stories about legends like Michael Jordan, don't forget to subscribe to NBA World, hit the notification bell, and join us on this journey through the greatest stories in basketball. In other news, in the eternal debate over who is the greatest player in NBA history, the names Michael Jordan and LeBron James usually dominate the conversation. However, in recent years, Stephen Curry has forced his way into the discussion thanks to his revolutionary impact on the game. And now, Steve Kerr, a man who knows both worlds very well, has fueled the controversy even further. Kerr doesn't speak from speculation. He was Michael Jordan's teammate during the Chicago Bulls dynasty of the 90s, and has coached Stephen Curry for nearly a decade with the Golden State Warriors, leading him to multiple championships. That's why when he compares these two giants, his words carry real weight. In a recent interview, Kerr revealed, "It's the most incredible mentality I've ever seen. Michael had a similar mentality." That statement spread like wildfire across social media, sparking reactions from fans, journalists, and former players. So in what ways are Curry and Jordan alike? And what sets them apart? For Kerr, the clearest common ground is their competitive mindset. Both share an almost supernatural ability to focus on winning, regardless of the circumstances. However, there is a key difference in how they channel that mentality. Jordan played with a burning fire, a need to annihilate his rivals. He didn't just want to beat you. He wanted to make sure you knew you weren't on his level. His mentality was forged through extreme demands and relentless self-imposed pressure. Curry, on the other hand, finds his strength in the joy of playing. His motivation comes from passion for the game and enjoying the moment. He doesn't need intimidation to dominate. His game flows with smiles, celebrations, and contagious energy that lifts his team. This doesn't mean he isn't competitive, but rather that his way of channeling ambition is lighter, yet just as lethal. Stephen Curry has revolutionized modern basketball with his long-range shooting. He currently holds the NBA's all-time record with 4,058 three-pointers, a number that keeps climbing and may remain untouchable for decades. What's most surprising is that Curry has achieved this dominance without the imposing physical build of Jordan or LeBron James. He isn't the tallest, the strongest, or the fastest, but his technical skill, tactical IQ, and accuracy have made him a nightmare for opposing defenses. Jordan, for his part, built much of his dominance on a lethal combination of talent, athleticism, and mentality. He could hit mid-range shots with deadly precision, attack the rim with authority, and suffocate opponents with his defense, making him a complete and nearly unstoppable player. Both men know what it means to win at the highest level. Jordan ended his career with 6 championships, and a legacy many consider untouchable. Curry, meanwhile, already has 4 rings, the same as LeBron James. This tie with the king gives Curry extra motivation, winning a 5th title, and doing it with a single franchise, the Golden State Warriors. Such an achievement would strengthen his historical status, showcase his loyalty and consistency, and separate him from other greats who switched teams to chase championships. Even if he does win that 5th title, many will still see Jordan and LeBron as the frontrunners in the GOAT, greatest of all time debate. However, such success would solidify Curry as the most influential player of his era, and perhaps the most revolutionary in the modern history of the sport. Ultimately, Steve Kerr has raised a point that few dare to mention. Curry and Jordan, though radically different in style, share a winner's mentality that makes them unique. One dominated through intensity, the other through joy. But both have proven that there's more than one way to conquer the NBA and leave an eternal legacy. So now I ask you, do you think Stephen Curry deserves to be in the same conversation as Michael Jordan and LeBron James when it comes to the greatest of all time? Let me know in the comments.